Hi, I just finished reviewing your discussion posts for this week that were related to your literature review work or your searching work um, on your APSL and your APTL. And I have a couple of things I want to make sure that I point out to you. Remember, the focus of the APSL, evidence number 1, is student learning. And so many of you did research related to specific areas of student learning that your PLC has identified as a part of your work in evidence 1. And then some of you expanded your research to look at teacher empowerment and leadership because this is the focus of evidence 2, the APTEL. And some of you did both, which is great. It may be that you don't need to do further research on the APSL, evidence 1, because you did that work already. But you definitely need to make sure that you're aware that evidence 2 focuses on teacher empowerment and leadership. And if you don't focus on that in preparing that evidence and in the research that you do, then you won't meet the descriptors for that evidence. And so what I want to do is share with you the handbook and talk to you specifically about what I mean by addressing the descriptors. Okay, there are 2 handbooks on your site. You'll see that there's this July 2013 information, or July 2013 edition, and I'm in the MELS information tab. And then there's the January 2012 edition. Now, your cohort entered under the January 2012 edition, and those are the rubrics that you are using. However, I want you to notice that in the new handbook, the rubric, this is incorrect, it's the rubric for the APTEL. I need to fix that, sorry. The rubric for the APTEL, evidence 2, has been completely revised to align with the descriptors for that evidence and promote clarity and completion of the evidence. So you might want to look at those descriptors. Let me show you what I mean. This is the old handbook, the one that you have been using. And so I'm going to go to evidence 2, the APTEL. Oops, went right past it, sorry. Evidence 2. And I'm going to look at the descriptor rubric. Okay, so it's the descriptors that ultimately you have to meet. You need to think about this evidence, the artifact rubric here. This evidence is a vehicle by which you are driving to the descriptors. And so it's the descriptors that you, while you're working on these things, you need to pay attention to the descriptors ahead of you. You'll need to, I mentioned last week, when you submit your work on evidence 2, I expect you to submit a summary on how you've addressed the descriptors. That's going to help you when you are trying to submit to TaskStream and needing to pay attention to those descriptors. Okay, so let's look specifically, a proficient candidate is understanding, providing opportunities for teachers to assume leadership and decision-making roles, planning and providing leadership development activities, empowering staff to assume leadership and decision-making roles, and also understanding the importance of building a sense of efficacy and empowerment, understanding the importance of developing a sense of well-being among staff, students, and parents, guardians, understanding high and low levels of staff efficacy and empowerment. So that's component B and C of your APTEL. Strategies for building a sense of efficacy and empowerment. Understanding the importance of developing effective professional learning communities. So those of you that have looked at professional learning communities as part of your APTEL, that's a smart connection to make. results-oriented professional development, analyzing school and community context, and then working with others to develop effective professional learning communities and results-oriented professional development, understanding recruitment, placement, and mentoring, and understanding evaluation of staff. So part of what we did in this new revision of the handbook was we revised the rubric for the APTEL to more clearly reflect the descriptors that are a part of the APTEL. So I'm going to open up the new rubric, and you can see in this new rubric for the APTEL, it essentially gives you a list of search terms that you might want to use for searching the internet and doing research related to the APTEL. And some of these terms are terms that you used already in your search for your discussion board posts this week, but there may be terms here that will help you frame the APTEL around the descriptors so that it speaks directly to the descriptors. So I'm going to suggest that you look at the new handbook and look at component A, APTEL research, and look at these topics that are listed for the literature review for the APTEL. That's going to help you with those search terms. And again, those search terms came directly out of the descriptors for this evidence that I just pointed out to you. And you can even find those descriptors in the new handbook within this descriptor rubric. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing I noticed in your discussion post this week is that some of your posts read as though you could have written them without doing any reading or watching any PD 360 videos or doing any other work related to the class at all except for reflecting on your own experience. And I want to make sure you understand that your discussion posts need to reflect the fact that you have done the reading or worked with the content that I've assigned for the week. You shouldn't be able to post your discussion board post just based on your experience. There needs to be a clear and intentional integration with content in order to score accomplished on that work. Okay, so let's talk about this week. This week, your task relates to doing some additional work. I'm sorry, I don't know why that page 36 thing is showing up there and I can't get rid of it. You'll be looking at chapter 1 in your curriculum leadership text in thinking about specific goals and values. And some of you even talked about that as being something that your PLC needs to improve on. This work will be especially useful in completing Artifact 1E or Evidence 1E, and you'll want to pay attention to the descriptors for Evidence 1E as well. There is no post due this week, and there is no specific assignment that you have to submit to me. I'm just trying to keep you on track with what the text can contribute to the work that you're doing on your evidences, remembering that the APSL, Evidence 1, is an ongoing piece of evidence. So this is one of the pieces of your ongoing work that you can work on this week. So I'd like for you to read chapter 1. It talks about setting goals and values and making clear, SMART goals as a part of your work in a PLC. And I know that some of you talked about that as being an area that your PLC needs to improve. And then within Module 4, I'd like for you to look at the SMART Goals PowerPoint. So if you go into Course Content, Course Modules, and Module 4, Here is the SMART Goals PowerPoint. Here is the link to the PD360 site. You're going to be looking at the PD360 video entitled Goals, Pillar 4 of Successful Schools. You've already viewed this in Module 2, but looking back at it and reminding yourself about it again will be a useful piece of thinking through how this could impact your work on Evidence 1E. Okay, so that is your work for this week, and I hope you have a good one. Thank you. Bye.